Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Mull for Wednesday, the 29th of March. With Robert Murray McShane, one of the chapters we read is John chapter 19, looking at the trial and crucifixion of Jesus. And as I read it, I thought, for us, it's the central idea of Scripture. It's the whole of the Old Testament builds up to that point where God steps into our world and offers himself in Jesus as a sacrifice to deal with our brokenness and our sin. And that's where our salvation is. That's where our hope is. That's where eternity opens up to us. So for us as Christians, that is the central and the unmistakably key moment of history. But as you read through the story, I was struck that for the people involved, not so much. Jesus was just another criminal that needed to be dealt with. Different to most, quite possibly, and Pilate seems to acknowledge that. But for him, he's just caught up in the power play. And you've got the chief priests and the masses gathering, and you've got the potential of a riot in Jerusalem, which would cost Pilate his job, and he's trying to maintain the peace. And there's this person that they're accusing. Pilate doesn't see anything wrong with him, but they insist. And as we read through, we find that Pilate starts saying, "What must I do? Here's your king." And they would say, "Crucify him." And they shouted all the louder, take him away, crucify him." "Shall I crucify your king?" Pilate asked. "We have no king but Caesar," the chief priests answered. Finally, Pilate handed him over and let him be crucified. And I thought, here Pilate is, he's suddenly got these Jewish leadership that had been resisting, that had stood against the Romans, that didn't want anything to do with them. Finally, the chief priest says, "We have no king but Caesar." And I suspect for Pilate, that was a win. And he held on to that and let things move forward. And for him, it is just another criminal. And the fact that as Jesus was taken out to the cross, it wasn't the one cross. There were 3 crosses. There were 2 other people to die with him. And we're not told, but I wonder how often there were crucifixions. And certainly we know that the Romans did it often. Outside Rome, they crucified 10,000 slaves after a revolt. And we know that in the later years, in AD 70, when the Jews resisted and rebelled, they crucified thousands of rebellious people. So for the Romans, this is just another crucifixion. And as I was thinking about that, I thought we need to pray that God will help us to see in the ordinariness of our daily life, to catch a glimpse of where he is and where he's working and what is important. Because in the same way that in the ordinariness, from their perspective of what was going on, here was the central moment of human history. And we've got to say, God, in the ordinariness of our lives, help us to see your moments, to see where you are and where you're working. And Lord, help us to work with you. So as we move toward Easter, as we think about these things more, reflect on your own life and where God might well be there. We just got to pray to see it. And as we see it, we're blessed.